of the arts. North Star is the perfect place to come together for creative people to brainstorm and to take action, both politically and creatively.
I actually came here when I was much younger, when they were still doing like regular church service. So I would like to say I have a long history with
tell you what it is. It's a surprise. So it's a combination of documentary with experimental film. After the film, there will be a panel discussion. People should, we will call attention and we'll ask everybody to clear their chairs after the panel discussion and clear the house out. And DJ, unless Chalet is in the house, will lead a warm-up. People should go to the bathroom, get something to eat, take a break. And then we'll start the soul train. And the rules for the soul train, I will tell you all the rules, but the purpose of the soul train is not just to have a soul train. I'm hoping to share with people how I do artwork as a person with, I'm legally blind. I have some usable vision, but how is this possible? I take my own body and embody the movement, the feeling, and everything, and I put it onto a canvas or paper or whatever. And each of you will be doing that, and we're going to have a shared mural at the end, which, if it comes out good enough, I'm hoping will be auctioned off, and the proceeds will go towards North Star. So that's it. That's it.
How they see it.
When you say you get lost, what do you mean?
All of the above.
Part 1, how they see it.
When you say you get lost, what do you mean?
All of the above. I've lost my bearings. I don't know where I'm at. Like, for instance, like with the story of me getting lost in my home.
You got lost in your home.
I get lost in my home a lot. And it's probably like 1 or 2 times a week at this point in time. Would you think I would learn my house? Which I do know it, but when you walk in my front door, it's kind of like a little hallway that you go down. That heads into the kitchen and the living room, but there's a side hallway to the left that goes to the bedrooms, and then there's another little part that has like a little wall in between that breaks off. Somehow or another, I end up on the wrong side of the wall that breaks in between the hallway, and I'm just like lost there. Like, where am I?
When my husband and I first got married, and I knew that he liked meatloaf, and I said, I'm gonna make a meatloaf. homemade. So I got all my ingredients out. And back in those days, we as blind people who couldn't see boxes and read things, we did not have the ability to identify things in boxes and packages. So I put my meatloaf together and I prepared it and sat down to eat it. And my husband takes a bite of meatloaf and I said, well, how is the meatloaf? And he said, well, it's very good, except that I have never had a meatloaf with nuts and raisins in it. And I started laughing because I knew right away that what I had done, I had grabbed, instead of oatmeal or whatever it was I meant to put in there to bind it, I had grabbed a box of mueslis. So it did bind it. But there were raisins and dates and nuts, all kinds of things in that meatloaf.
When you're blind, I think many blind people share this experience of apologizing to random objects or talking to random objects. So, if you think about when you're walking, maybe you mistake a plant or a
thick glasses, so, but I really was not listening nor paying attention that my vision was getting worse. I began to not, had difficulty driving at night because I couldn't drive at night. It was extremely difficult with me seeing as well as other drivers, the lights from the other cars, the other vehicles. When I got here in Durham and went to the eye doctor, that's when they told me I was going blind. And at first it was only in my left eye, but I didn't want to do surgery. And so then eventually I lost vision in both eyes. But it's, to me, I know it's from not giving it as much attention as I should have and staying on top of it.
I am, well, technically visually impaired, but I just say blind because it's easier. So I can see a little bit of shape, a little bit of shadow. I have what's called retinopathy of prematurity. So I was born with detached retinas. I've never gotten hallucinations, but I've definitely gotten lost all the time. And the best thing is when you're lost on your own block or your own street. Because if you get off a bus or out of a car, you might be very close to your apartment or your door or your house, but there's this moment where you might be right there, but if you don't know where you are, you can't see, you could still be a million miles away from that place, even if you're 10 feet away. So I live in downtown where there's blocks, and the blocks all kind of feel the same. There's stores and buildings and signs and scooters everywhere. And I've definitely had the misfortune of being one block over, or even the same street as where I live, and just not knowing where I am. Because it all feels the same to me at first, until I get my bearings.
So recently, this is about 6 months ago, I was on the green walking with my dog. And now the green only goes north and south. And I was going north. But for some reason, there was a cutoff on the greenway, and I stopped for a second to just tie my shoe or whatever, or let my dog use the bathroom. So that immediately got me a little confused, because then I was like, wait, was I going left or was I going right? And then, ironically, there was a runner. He was running. He's like, and I was trying to ask for help, and he ran by. He's like, I can't help. I can't stop. He was running. I was like, sir, I'm blind. I just needed your help. And so he finally came back. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And it made me feel like weird, because I'm like, you ran by me because you were running, and all I needed was you to help me, and I was disoriented for 2 seconds. And so eventually he helped me, but then I have an app called Ira, and I open it, and they help me get kind of back straight and give me the coordinates I needed to get back to my. And sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking and tense for the moment, because you feel like you're lost, but you're not really lost. In theory, it's just that you had a momentary lapse in judgment as far as what I call like directionally challenged in that moment.
I was hiking with him on the Mountains to Sea Trail along the Eno River not long after I got home with him back in 2017, and got home with him from the Sea Night Guide Dogs. So I hadn't had him very long, and we're on this trail, and I knew the trail, and we were hanging out at this little waterfall spot about a mile from my house, and came time to head back on the trail. I got Gifford going off in that direction, and soon found that he must have taken a turn, because we weren't on the trail anymore. And I tried to backtrack and couldn't figure that out. But all I knew was, okay, I'm lost. I also hadn't been to where I lived for very, a couple of years so I was lost with Gifford. And how did I get out of it? I listened, and I heard cars, and just pointed them in the direction of the cars. There was we had come to like a power line break or a fire break in the woods, and we just kept walking to the direction of the cars, and got to this road, and it just kind of it made sense to me that this has to be Infinity Road, and I knew where I was, and we wound up, there's no sidewalk or anything, so it was fairly fast, not a lot of cars, but they were moving pretty fast. So we had to navigate back along the sort of the verge of the road and ditches and stuff, and wound up making it back to my neighborhood that way. So we worked it out, and I guess that was sort of like dog and I high-fived each other. But I've never gotten lost, like lost, where I couldn't get out of it. Other than that time, I never, away from home, I never gotten lost. But let me talk about the Charles Bonnet syndrome, the visual hallucinations. I don't like that word. I like visualizations more than hallucinations. But back, 15 years ago, more than that, I started seeing these flashing sort of objects and lights and dots in my field of vision, and I didn't know what it was, but it was making things really bothersome and difficult for me. At this moment, I'm experiencing it. Between you and I, there's this field of flashing, billions of little flashing lights, and they're there 8 days out of 10, and have been for that many years, 15, somewhere between 15 and 20 years. Kind of got used to it. They used to be really more of a torment. But when it started, I talked to my ophthalmologist with it, and he suggested to me, this is a doctor in Chico, California, that what I'm seeing is my brain just making up stuff. And he had nothing more to say about it. He didn't put a name to it. He just casually said, yeah, that's your brain working because you're losing your vision. And I remember seeing a specialist, a retina specialist in Stanford eye clinic in Palo Alto, California, around that time, and talked to him about it. And he told me what I'm seeing are my rotting cone cells dying. It's a product of retinitis pigmentosa. And everything I've learned since then tells me that that was completely wrong. And that the first guy who said it's my brain sort of making up stuff was much closer to the truth. So as the years went on, I started to see other things. And the first one was in my home in Durham, so it goes back like 9 or 10 years. And I saw, I was laying on my bedroom floor doing what I was doing, but I just stopped because I saw this face of a girl, and it was vivid. And it was just, I actually remember reaching out, and like, what is that? And it just kind of was there. It wasn't frightening or anything. It was just the face of a young girl, or a young woman. And then it was gone. And what the heck was that? And that phenomenon became more common, and it happens to this day. I see faces all the time now, almost on a daily basis. And in the meantime, I got involved with a support group back in conversation came up, it's for me, it was largely a group of strangers at that point, been new to the group, but one of the first meetings I went to, people were talking about these visualizations that they were experiencing, and I was like fascinated by it. And someone said there's this thing called Charles Bonnet syndrome that impacts not the majority by any means, but for people who have lost a significant amount of vision, people report seeing visualizations, but really a great variety. And the explanation for it was that your brain is trying to compensate for your inability to see. Your optic nerve is working, your eye is otherwise healthy, and your brain wants to continue to see. So it's making up things to compensate for those things not really being available to you visually. And I thought back to that at the time with an ophthalmologist in Durham, who said, it's your brain. And I think he was right. I have no other explanation. There's no other explanation that's been presented to me for these visualizations other than that your brain is trying to compensate for your loss of the ability to actually see things. So I'm good with that, and I'm good with the visualizations. At this point, it's almost entertainment. It's intriguing. The faces that I see are never threatening. They're never people I recognize. It's not people in my life. It's not real people. They appear to be real, but they're not people I know or have ever encountered. They're just different faces. And it's fascinating. There's no pain to it. There's no fear or anything like that. There have been other images, not so often with me, people walking. You see this person walking in my car, sitting in the parking lot, pulling a probably a luggage bag that was going to an airport. Vehicles on the road that aren't there. Things like that happen. As I said, it's more entertaining and intriguing at this point, and never frightening. There's another one that occurs quite frequently. That's kind of cool. And the way I would describe it is if you take the words off a page of a book and imagine them to be like sticks, all the letters to be sticks, and they dropped, and some of them broke, and some of them didn't, but they're all jumbled together. And I see these like clusters of jumbled letters and broken letters and stuff. And it's almost kind of fun to be able to see if I can pick out strings of letters and stuff. And they fade away after a short while, but that happens on a pretty regular basis. And then the final regular aspect of this Charles Bonnet, what I believe to be part of the Charles Bonnets, I mentioned that what I see is light and shadow. And some mentioned that all these flashing things, there's 8 out of 10 days I've got that going on. It's like when the planets align and I don't have, like I'm on a day when I don't have all this flashy stuff going on. I still can't see things, but having that clarity in combination with the time when I'm walking in the woods, the light and shadow that I see, especially at dusk, just is absolutely beautiful. They're like clouds of black and gray and white that just sort of morph and can transition as I'm walking complete whiteout situations to just fading clouds into complete blackout situations. And that I find just incredible beauty. But that's all not real. That's just not what the world beyond me is actually looking like. But that's what my brain is sort of giving to me to compensate for my inability to see the trees around me, the birds, and the trail itself and stuff. That was probably a little bit more than we were looking for, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. The Charles Bronson thing is something that terrifies some people who are experiencing it for the first time. I meet these people on a regular basis through my teaching, and we actually teach about Charles Bonnet syndrome, and inevitably on those class days at the end of class, people come out with, I'm so grateful for hearing about that because I've never said anything to anyone about it. I thought, my mind, my brain was starting to degrade, and that you've given me just a completely new perspective on what's happening to me, it's happening to other people. With Charles Bronson can really be a scary thing for some people. It was a startling thing for me when it started. It never became something to be afraid of. You can imagine people experiencing, seeing things that aren't there for the first time. And for some people, it can have a really debilitating impact until they learn not to be afraid of it, learn what it actually is.
I'm Damian DJ Robinson, currently living in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a professional dance artist and choreographer, and also a professional massage therapist by trade.
My name is Bryce Smith, and I live in Raleigh, and I work at solitude. I work on the product accessibility team.
My name is Donna. I am retired. I retired from working at Duke Hospital for 42 years.
I'm Robin. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm starting a coaching business. I got certified as a life coach recently, went through that whole training program. And I was looking for what my focus is going to be, and I want it to be on people who have lost the way they functioned for some reason. And I'm calling it Be, Live, Leap, because it is, you've got to be where you are. You've got to live the moment we're living and then jump.
I helped create software that turns charts into sound. So one of my passions is helping people who have traditionally been shut out from accessible technology, accessible careers. Right now, what we work on is helping people who primarily can't see, but also have other disabilities, to have access to kind of STEM education and careers. So think of things like science, technology, engineering, math. I'm quite proud of professional accomplishments.
My passion really is probably more so about my faith. It is because of my faith that has kept me encouraged in my vision loss. And it continues to strengthen me and makes me very comfortable in even me living alone. And it allows me to know I'm still the exact same person. I may not be able to naturally see, but everything else works. And me not being able to see does not discourage me, because I believe I was created and am created for a divine purpose, and I'm able still to do a lot of things that I love to do.
One of the worst parts about it is that people perceive you as being not only blind, but they perceive you as being, as I said, mentally slow, that you can't hear well, that you can't do anything for yourself. And it's like, oh, you poor pitiful thing. And it's just not true.
Vision loss is unique to every person and every individual, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And so when you are assisting or helping or directing someone with a visual impairment or blindness, you have to approach it with a sensitivity and an awareness that you may need to change approaches because every person may need something different who is blind or visually impaired that one may not need.
I think a lot of sighted people don't understand people who are blind, people what vision loss is all about, and maybe it is fear that prompts them to sometimes look the other way.
A disability can come on anyone at any time. If you live to be old enough, you will begin to lose your vision and your hearing, and you won't be scampering around like you once did as a child. I'm just saying, the aging process, along with that comes some types of disabilities. And so, enjoy being quote unquote normal as long as you can, but just know that you may not always be that way, or someone such as a parent may not always be that way. But don't feel sorry for that person and think that they can't do anything, because the best thing that you can do for that person is encourage them to really try to be the best that they can be and work with what they've got. You've may feel like you've been dealt a bad hand in life, but you just need to look at your cards and say, this is what I've got, and I'm going to play it as best as I can.
Let's see how she sees it.
I'm Hillary, and to an artist. My mother was an artist and my father was a doctor. I have what's called Stargardt's disease, and it's basically a dystrophy of the retina. It's genetic, and there's two forms of it. There's a recessive, which means both parents have to carry the gene, and then there's an autosomal dominant version. What it happens is, imagine a piece of cloth, and it has moth holes through it. That's what they mean by a dystrophy. So basically, I have holes in my retina. What makes Stargardt's, what's unique to Stargardt's is it predominantly starts in the macula, which is the center part, the center, and I have basically no centers in my vision, and you use that central vision to read, to look at things, to focus.
This is one of my CCTVs. CCTV stands for closed circuit television set, and it's just one form of adaptive assistive technology, and it can only be used really when people have some usable vision, and also people who have low vision. And they come, this is sort of a dinosaur. They've gotten to be more economical in the way they're designed. This thing is so huge, I can't even fit on my terrace. But I'm going to turn it on, and I'm putting something under the screen. And what it does, wait for it to warm up. I'm going to show you another one. Here we go. So here it is. I have a picture that I put under here of, it's the card, the invitation to the event. I think different people you can see the size of how much I have to blow this up, and I should probably show the camera the size of the real
attention to that, because if you have a recessive gene, it can go unnoticed for many, many generations. So apparently my mother and my father both carry this gene, and therefore I'm a product of that. My disease, fortunately, does not manifest itself until you're around your 20s. It starts earlier, but I was lucky enough to have my visual cortex developed, and I was able to read, and I had 20/20 vision, and I was able to go to school. And then when I hit college, I started really struggling with reading, but I didn't know why. And it's very interesting. My parents chose not to tell me, though they knew I had this prognosis. There was some denial, because I have a schizophrenic sister as well, and there was a lot of denial about that in the family. They didn't want to admit that somebody in the family, like somebody they loved, might have a disability that could be debilitating. I want to say that everybody who has vision loss has their own journey. No, that's one mistake a lot of people make. My personal journey is I have a condition that is slow and degenerative. So that impacts how I digested or integrated the loss. At first I was in denial. I think one of the greatest steps I took was moving to using a cane. Because it's a symbol. It was an outward expression of a disability that I carried within me. And it was really disturbing to me. Plus, I was in that time of my life when, you're dating people and you're supposed to be sexy and all this sort of stuff. And then I had this bozo cane with a big ball at the end of it. And I'm trying to be cute. And it wasn't cute. So, that was difficult. What was also difficult is I didn't have anybody to talk to about any of this. I didn't have any camaraderie at the time. I was told the disease I have is rare, but I'm finding out they know so much more now. The transition of losing sight and becoming disabled is very difficult. It's not easy to go through the transition, and I remember I went to Argentina, and I would wear, for tango, you wear these incredibly tight, sexy outfits, okay, and have these high heels on, okay, and I had to show up at a milonga. The women sit on one side of the room and the men sit on the other, with my cane, which has a big bozo. The other side? Yeah. This is the head of a cane. Imagine walking in really high heels with this big cane. It was mortifying. And not only that, in tango, they do something called cabeceo, where men look at the women when they want to dance across the room, and they lock eyes, and they nod, and they nod, and you're supposed to stand up and come to the middle of the room and meet them. There's no talking, there's no touching, there's no, oh, will you dance with me? Now, I'm blind, so I had to put my cane on the table in front of me as a message to the world, I can't do cabeceo. And then I spoke to my friend who was with me, who was American, and said, if somebody wants to dance with me and you can tell they're interested in me, you have to be my eyes, and you have to tell me and I'll nod. You have to tap my shoulder and let me know. And then you need to just point to the cane and make sure that they either come get me or I can get there safely. It's mortifying, but you know what? I got over it. It's like, you just keep getting it. And I thought, nobody would ask me to dance when I went to Argentina. I was petrified. And in the end, I had plenty of dances. I had a great time. I went back twice.
I have a rare version of my diagnosis where they told me that I would never lose peripheral vision, which is typically associated with retinitis pigmentosa, but clearly that's not the case. I'm a slight percentage have more than just central vision loss. The beauty of having central vision loss is I'm a dancer and it didn't interfere with me dancing. And I still love the arts, so I ended up going into the visual arts. I got a degree in college I started out pre-med actually. Can you imagine me being your surgeon? I started out pre-med and then I dropped because I started losing vision and I knew that I was struggling but I couldn't tell what was going on. So I moved into the visual arts. I think I defaulted into advocacy work because it could be because of my age and my generation, where I believe, most of us believe we could change the world. So I stayed with that pattern of speaking out. And I believe if we don't say something, we don't do anything, nothing will change. There's a lot of inequities that still exist. A lot of decisions about the disability community are made by people who don't have disabilities, and they're doing their best, or they think they're doing their best, but they don't include us in the dialogue. There's two ways to look at my exhibit, which is going to be called As I See It, because it's as I see it as a blind person. And I have my way of seeing it, and people who are blind have their way of seeing it, and everybody sees things in their own way. Even if you do have sight, you still see things in your own way. There's two ways to look at who I am. I'm a person with a disability who happens to be an artist. That's one way of looking at it. Or I'm an artist that happens to be disabled. And I'm not using the word disability in a negative way. I do have a disability. I'm not going to cheat myself with that, because if I don't acknowledge my disability, I don't get the help I need when I need it. So I'm going to treat myself to my disability. I'm going to acknowledge it. And I want to open that. I'm trying to open up a dialogue with the public and the community, so that they may be a little bit more, I want to debunk the misconceptions of the limitations of vision loss, because as I know it, because that's my personal disability and I can speak to it more clearly than other disabilities, but I'm also hoping that they will translate it into other disabilities as well. And I'm hoping that through this project, people may walk away and go, we shouldn't assume this person can't accomplish X, Y, or Z, or can't attain X, Y, or Z, or is not competent or capable.
So, if you had to say why you're making this project, I think it's probably tied to what you believe, what you're fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? If you say it in one sentence, what is it?
One sentence?
Is that 3 words?
3 words. I can do it in 4.
Part 3.
Lost, a quintessential day in the life of a blind person. DJ is at the store buying groceries, rushing to get home on a snowy day.
Olive oil, marinara sauce, Italian seasoning, salt, black pepper, red pepper flakes. Zucchini spinach, 1 package frozen, mushrooms, bell peppers, onion, garlic, 4 cloves, fresh basil, ricotta cheese, mozzarella cheese, Parmesan cheese, 1 dozen eggs.
Hello? I'm currently at the grocery store right now. There's a store packing that's supposed to happen sometime today. So I'm just
DJ exits the store, making patterns in the snow with his blind cane. DJ walks to the curb and waits while listening to variations of crossing signals. He crosses the street, walks up the steps towards his house, gets to the door, drops his groceries, and gets his keys. Opens the door to encounter a voice speaking at superhuman rates. A rotating flash of color fills the room. The screen turns black.
I've fallen and I can't get up. I can't get up.
The screen flashes to individuals falling, slipping, sliding, tumbling in a dance studio.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Fallen and I can't get up. I can't get up. Get up. And I can't get up.
The room transforms into an orange scene. Surreal. Two dancers move together to the sound of Arctic seals under ice.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
The room returns to normal. DJ begins to tap dance to a percussive soundtrack.
And I can't get up. And I can't get up. Can't get up. Falling. Get up.
The scene fades to DJ in a solid white room. He uses echolocation to get his bearings. Clicking, snapping, clapping, stomping. He determines he's in a racquetball court. He encounters a racket and balls. He attempts to use the equipment, but clearly he cannot see. The feet of another dancer appear. The camera pans up to DJ and Hillary dancing with rackets in close embrace. There is a close-up of DJ doing a somersault, a somersault, a somersault in slow motion.
Oh, I'm falling, but I can get up. I can get up.
Back in the dance studio, DJ does a somersault into a standing position and walks confidently to a reflection of himself in the mirror. The film ends with a final message in white text: I can.
Give it up for Hillary one more time, y'all. So we're just going to get our panelists up on stage. Feel free to grab some food, grab a drink, and we'll get started in just a second.
Hello.
Thank you. Okay, a few more minutes. Go to the bathroom, get a drink, and we're gonna go to the panel discussion. We'll be here until 2 or 3 in the morning.
All right, panelists, we ready to get started? Yes. Ready. Okay, y'all, you can make your way back to your seats. That was beautiful, right? Let's give it up for Hillary and all of our panelists. So this is a Q&A, this is a conversation. Y'all are more than welcome to chime in if you want. Our friend Cameron is gonna help us pass the mic around just so people can hear your questions. But we're actually going to start off with a question from our online audience. And this is for all the panelists. They'd like to know, where do you keep your keys?
This is DJ. So outside of me being a blinky and my eyes not working well, I also have ADHD. So that is a good question. Sometimes they are on the floor somewhere. Other times they're sitting in front of my living room TV, and sometimes they're sitting on the dining room table. But half the time I just ask my wife and she gives them to me. So I don't have to worry about where they are. I just have to know, make sure they're in the house.
Hi, it's Bryce. I have a spot right on the counter when I walk into my apartment. I just keep all the stuff in my pocket goes in this little bowl. So keys, phone, wallet, it's all just sitting there, so I never lose it.
I'm Kim Lovely, and I keep my keys on the door, on the lanyard. When I walk in the house, I just turn around and put them on the door.
I'm Shanae. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. That's okay. They gave me one too. You don't want to give me two. I'm Robin, and I keep mine on a giant clip attached to my body or my bag. And if they're not there, they're sitting on a certain counter corner that you have to nearly hit when you walk in the door. Yeah.
So I keep my keys on a lanyard around my neck, and there's a lot of them. My daughter got me a Find My keys because I do lose them. And then I'm not going to tell you where I put my keys when I leave the house in a secret place.
because I lose them all the time, and if I tell you, you'll know how to get
Hi, I'm Ed. My keys are attached to a little leather pouch that contains guitar picks. So my keys are always where my guitar picks are, and I don't often know where that is.
Amazing. Thank you all for sharing. The next question was for Bryce with a follow-up for Hillary. So folks with vision loss listen to their phones and other digital outputs at significantly higher speeds, sometimes as much as 500 words per minute. Bryce, would you happen to be able to share a sample from your phone of that with the audience?
Yeah, sure. So let me give me 2 seconds to turn it up. Okay, I'm gonna move the phone. So this is the fastest speech rate. I'll just slow it down to start. Okay, so if you lower the speech rate, you move your finger on the phone.
Be my eyes, but do not disturb. Button 7:55 p.m. Do not disturb. Button.
And then at its fastest, so that's as low as it goes.
7:55 p.m.
But if you speed it up to the highest, where I use that, you'll get this. And a lot of that is just practice. So you get there eventually.
And we heard some of that in the film, right, Hillary? Can you tell us
So
about
I open the film, and you hear, and what it's saying is, I've fallen and I can't get up. And that's how blind people probably will understand what it's saying. Sighted people would not. So I integrated that into the film.
Hillary, I would love to continue asking about concepts you use in the film. You talk about echolocation and DJ. You mentioned using echolocation. Do you use that in your daily life? DJ.
Yes, I use it in my everyday life. Not so much when I'm in my home or when I'm outside, where I'm walking on the greenway, whether I'm at work. Typically, when I'm at work, I don't use my cane because the building's small, and I tend to know how to map it, so I use it for open doors. But then I also use it choreographically when I'm in dance spaces, when I'm working with sighted individuals to teach them how to better understand how they can navigate and utilize other senses to help them understand the fullness of a space or the proximity in which something is far or closer. So, yeah.
So I'm going to say we should define what echolocation is. Echolocation is used by, various people and other animals actually. Bats use sonar, but some people who have vision loss will use echolocation to find their bearings, determine where they are in space, to create a sense of how a room or a space is laid out. And some people don't even use canes. They'll click, snap, tap, stomp. And I use that in the film. When we go into the racquetball court, I tried to demonstrate a sample of, because I wanted everyone to see, he automatically did it on his own to try and figure out what this crazy room was. It echoes. And we caught it on film.
There were aquatic animals in the last experimental portion. Is that related to why you use them at all?
Why we use the what?
Like the aquatic animals, was it seals? Was it
Those are
whales?
Arctic seals under ice. That is their natural sound, and I just fell in love with it. I heard it one day because I'm so sound oriented. I was watching a film where they had it in it. It's a Paramount Pictures film or something. But I said, oh my God, I'm going to remember that and use that someday in something. That was it. No other reason.
Beautiful, artist. Okay, we have a question for Robin. And Robin, at North Star, you do what makes you feel comfortable. It's always up to you how much you would like to share. But you like to seize the moment and share your talent as an improv actress?
Wow. I usually just live that part, but yeah, usually you work off somebody else. So well, yeah. I think Hillary's up for a lot of improvisation. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I spent about 20 to 30 years in acting in theater, and I was a theater director, which is very planned. It's not the improv piece. But yeah, so I still, this is not funny improv, but I cannot direct anymore because I can't see the stage well enough. And I can't read Shakespeare anymore. I can only hear him. And when I was about 13, I fell in love with Willie, believe it or not, because there was this sexy production of Romeo and Juliet, and I was 13, and that was just hot. So, but it was very moving. So, yeah, I actually was an improv actor for years and still do improv. Yeah.
I'd be really curious to see how that plays with your coaching practice.
It does. Yeah, it does. It plays with everything, actually. Okay, y'all, so everybody go yes and. Yes and. You've done improv. That is the principle of improv is yes and. Whatever I receive, I say yes and I add on to it. And so it's always, every answer is right. Isn't that cool? Every answer is right in improv. There is no bad improv. There is no, I mean, if somebody punched somebody else in the face, that would be bad. But there's no wrong or bad when it comes to improv. That's one of the reasons I love it. Thanks for asking me about it. Improv, losing sight is a really great way to use it in improv because a lot of the ways I plan things aren't the ways that they go. And sometimes I get in situations where I can't navigate out of it still. I've still got sight, and I've also got a cane. I don't have sight like I used to. But being able to say, yes, and this doesn't work. Yes, and something will. And I've never thought that thought before, so thank you for asking me. Yeah. And it's useful for everyone. Yes, and.
Yes, and. So we have a question for Kim. It says you have an important lesson to share regarding vision loss through a lived experience.
With my vision loss. With my vision loss, amazingly, I have come to understand that without my vision, I see better now than I did when I could naturally see. Because when people are talking to me, I'm listening. Based on my listening skills, I can have a better understanding of where they're coming from and direct them even in my response. I've also learned that in my vision loss, when people say to me about me having a disability, I advise them, I do not have a disability, I have an inability, because everybody has an inability. Nobody can do everything. Therefore, everybody has an inability, and when they start to see it from that perspective, they treat me normal because I still am.
That's a beautiful reframe. Shanae, we have that you have a daily practice of affirmation related to getting lost.
Yeah.
Share with the group.
I have daily affirmations. I do it daily for myself with getting lost. I do it weekly where I send it out to family and friends weekly. These little motivational sayings. And they're basically to keep motivating people, to keep going, to keep pushing through, even if they're lost, they're feeling lost physically, mentally, whatever. So it's kind of like like, for instance, today, my affirmations this morning when I woke up was, you got this. Little simple things. You got this. You can go. You can get up. You can move around. You can do this today. And then I got into my Beyonce, and I was singing Beyonce at the top of my lungs for a moment. And I got into my Pretty Hurts, where I use a lot of song quotes to kind of keep me from being lost and pushing through, and that's how I keep my affirmations for myself and to motivate others. So, thanks to Queen Bee.
Thanks to Queen Bee always. And finally, Ed, hearing you talk about Charles Bonnet syndrome was really moving for me. I have been dealing with a neurological condition the last year or so, and doctors often, like many of us on the stage, have rare conditions that affect our brains and our eyes. And like the medical process can be a nightmare. So could you tell us more about, like, was it a relief when you finally felt like you understood? And how was the experience of sharing with, like, a filmmaker, knowing that this would reach a different audience? Robin, you can pass your mic down.
Oh, hello.
Thank you.
As I mentioned in the film, it wasn't until I heard from other people the name Charles Bonnet syndrome, and it came as a relief to me to hear other people talking about experiencing what I was experiencing. And I think I made those comments at the beginning of my very long, unedited piece there. And towards the end, you know, I'm just kind of reflecting on it. I shared that I now teach, and I talk about Charles Bonnet syndrome, and I'm hearing from people that I work with that they're getting that sense of relief from hearing it from me that I got from hearing about it from others. So I was relieved, and I'm now, I guess, providing relief. You know, it's just this thing about not being alone. Oftentimes, people who are navigating vision loss and blindness experience isolation and loneliness, and it's not until we immerse ourselves in the community of other people who are experiencing this that we're relieved of that isolation, of that loneliness, and are able to live absolutely joyously, embracing, you know, our ability, disability, inability, however you want to call it, blindness, vision loss. I think everyone on the stage, to some extent, just embraces it and loves life, and I know these people. They're all just joyful people and live their life joyously. So, you know, whether it's Charles Bonnet syndrome or complete darkness, we're all experiencing different things up here, but it's all good in a way. We're able to just kind of overcome that and just keep going and contribute and share and just embrace one another in our lives.
I wanted to add something. Charles Bonnet syndrome played a large role in loss. The experimental part of the film, it's supposed to be getting lost in, it's almost like a mass hallucination. You just have to go with the flow of it, and it turns into colors, and then it turns into a room and a dance, and then it turns into a racquetball court, and you get lost, and then you get out of it, and you just keep going. So I end with the affirmation, thanks to Shimei, because I thought of you, and I have Charles Bonnet, but a different version than, I see patterns 24/7 forever, unless I'm sleeping. I see 20/20 Prismacolor in my dreams. Yeah, I just wanted to say that Charles Bonnet is part of that film.
Thank you. We want to open it up for the audience
relationship. And as long as you have communication and you have boundaries and understanding, that's how we deal with it. His ADHD on the other hand, that bothers me a little bit. But his blindness doesn't bother me at all. I'm here to help, I'm here to assist, and he, believe it or not, he helped me when I assist him, believe it or not. I just drive him to places, to appointments and stuff. But emotionally, he's there for me 100%. So I'm so proud of you, DJ. I love you so much. And as Kim said, don't see it as people tend to see people that have a disability. They're not disabled, they just have inability, as Kim said, and I love that. Because most people think because you're disabled and you're just visually impaired, they need to speak loud to you, or no, they can't see, they can hear. So we need to cut that out, and we just need to be more educated about impairment in individuals.
Thank you. My name is Betsy, and first I want to say regarding the film, Hillary, I admit to the biggest thing I learned was that, you meet one person who's blind, you met one person blind. In terms of the technical aspects of all the different ways people see and don't see who experience visual impairment, incredible. I had no idea the variety. But my question is actually for DJ also. I'm Janie's mom, and as you know, you danced with her and rehearsed with her a lot in the past. And one time really saved her from great harm as she was she was rolling fast across the floor in rehearsal, rolling towards a mirror, maybe 30 feet away, but she was moving fast, and I was watching and terrified. And DJ, you flew, I don't know if you remember this, but you somehow flew over and wedged your body between her and the mirror, just as she would have crashed in. My question is, because I'll be forever grateful, but my question is that echolocation in practice?
Yeah. So I remember that's the first time I had met her, and one of the first times I met her. And a lot of times it's a sensitivity to knowing it's a sensitivity to know the other person's body in relation to yours, and how their bodies naturally move through space, and also what their natural ability to move their body is, and how it wants to function in those various moments. And so the small movements I had with her gave me a confidence that I could take those little risks, almost like a intuition almost. And I wanted to keep her safe, and so I knew she liked to roll, so I already had it planned in my mind that if she rolled this way or rolled that way, that I was going to make sure to leap or bound over her so that she crashed into something. Regardless of which way she go, it would be me, so she would have a soft cushion to cushion her fall. So a lot of it's just instinct. Now that I have a 14-month-old little baby, it's not quite me jumping over things to feel. It's like me listening to a bell on her feet to track her and roll so I don't knock her down. But with Janie, I think it's like, hey, it's an instinctual thing, and it's a thing that, because it's like when you care about somebody, you kind of find these fundamental, simplistic ways of making something work so that the environment that they in doesn't become an environment, impoverished environment, but an environment of curiosity and freedom.
Amazing, thank you.
Hey guys, this is Danny. Thank you so much for the film, Hillary, and I feel like I know you a little bit all on the stage, which is really lovely. This is just an open question to anybody who wants to take it, and I'm going to make a little assumption, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but and some of you have expressed this, like, sort of mistreat you all the time, like make assumptions about you, and just, I don't know if that is part of your daily sort of awareness and practice, because it seems like I have a lot to learn from people who have to practice that all the time. So I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, this is. I'll just say something short and I'll pass it down. Cause that's a real thing, and I think that's an ongoing conversation and an ongoing discussion, pretty much discussion topic that I've heard come up over the years, and there's a vast array of situations where forgiveness is warranted, and there are others where it's like, why? Well, you know, or can I actually really? But I think that because of the situations that we all, I believe, find ourselves in at various different times, even though they may be with a different person or a different situation or circumstance, I think there comes this point of sympathy and empathy, but also realizing that maybe something that they may say or something they may do may come from a place of ignorance or lack of knowledge, and those moments are our opportunities to provide that education, so that forgiveness is already out there. It's not something we have to constantly know, because we know it's going to continue to happen. That gives us moments to continue to educate. So,
I do. Does somebody else?
I would just like to add that forgiveness first starts with yourself. And I had to go through supporting myself in forgiving myself to understand how to forgive other people in their ignorance. And with that, I've actually decided when I communicate with anybody, I usually make blind jokes. Or when they say to me, you see what I'm saying? I'm saying, actually, I don't. So I always make a joke to really help people to actually accept my inability. Because I don't like being uncomfortable, and so I don't want anyone around me to be uncomfortable.
I was thinking about holding both things is a way of forgiveness, and I'll keep this short. I went to Duke to go get an EEG last week, and I had to get dropped off because the traffic was taking so long. And I went in the door, and realized I had forgotten my cane in the car, and was pausing and sort of turning, and these two women walked by me, and I said, I'm sorry, and the two of them turned around and simultaneously yelled, watch where you're going. And yet, and I was shaken up. I had to wait for this. I was asking for somebody to help me get where I needed to go. And without my beloved cane, I didn't have my signal for people. But, but this very dear man saw me and said, I'll do everything you need to do. And put me in a wheelchair and took me up to my appointment. And I said, you are a blessing. Yeah. And he was. And that is human nature. It can turn on a dime like that. And if I can walk through these two women yelling, and see, if I'd had my cane, that never would have happened. Hey, the cane is a power wand. That never would have happened. But it's just, I've had a young be trying to get me to the other end of this huge airport. And he ran a wind sprint with me in a wheelchair going 90 miles an hour through the airport, and we were both laughing. And so, there are these very different sides, and when I try to keep them both in mind, it helps me have acceptance and forgiveness. Thank you.
I think the beauty of those the negative interactions that we all bump up against in our day to day, it always makes it so much sweeter. It's so much more like, wow, I am being seen, when there's someone like in her experience, or even in our individual experience, we had that one person that says, I'll help you. You know, don't worry about it. And there's nothing there that we have to do but just accept it. And I think when forgiveness at that point goes up because someone else stepped up, when the other people or individuals were in their ignorance or in their selfish states or in their unaware states, these other people chose to step up and made up for their lack of awareness. And so that's the beauty of it, is that, you know, there's always going to be someone else out there when there's a person of ignorance. And so that forgiveness moment, yes, I think it's something that we always carry with us, and we're willing to put it out there, and we want to put it out there, and we have to also look at ourselves first so that we can have that forgiveness ready for those individuals who are ignorant in their knowledge, so that we are not moved off of the peace and the resilience that we already have to walk. Because every time these things, we bump up against these little resistance, there's always going to be that one person that says, hey, let me help you. You don't have to bump up against anything, you know? So.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to chime in on this because I've not thought about these situations in the context of having to forgive someone. And this also ties into something that Robin just commented on, with the cane being a signal. I moved to Durham 10 years ago, and the first time my wife and I went to vote, we went into our polling place, and I didn't have my dog then. I had my white cane with me. And my wife and I walked up to the sign-in table, and the woman sitting behind the table saw me standing there with my white cane, and my wife standing next to me. She's sighted, she didn't have a white cane. And the woman behind the big book looked up and said, the first words out of her mouth were, "Is he able to sign his name?" And you know, my wife has experienced this kind of thing enough to know what to do, and she just stepped back and let me speak to the woman. And it made me feel sad. Not for me. I wasn't sad about my situation. I felt sad about her situation, and as DJ mentioned a little while ago, you look for opportunities to kind of help people. And my response to her was, ma'am, you can speak directly to me. I'm obviously blind, I have a white cane here, but that's really not a reason for you not to address me directly. And yes, I can sign my name, but I can also talk and have a conversation. And I didn't mean to embarrass her, but I had to respond to her, and I felt that was the best way to respond. And she apologized, and we got along splendidly after that. And I signed my name. I pulled a little signature card out of my wallet and showed it to her and asked her to place it where I have to sign my name. And she was, just I think genuinely apologetic, and I guess I forgave her, but I didn't think of it in those terms. I just felt it. I was educating her and seizing on an opportunity to kind of help more people understand what all of us are dealing with. But the cane is interesting because the cane can be a good signal, but it can also be something that I guess people are afraid of.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, we have a question for you.
It's all about you guys. So really quickly, I think I edited and shot this bad boy, but Ed told that story in a lot of these other folks have actually answered that question in many, many ways. You know, we got a little long-winded at times, so we can't do it all. But this woman right here, Hillary, is a phenomenal artist, like we all agree, right? She made this movie with, no offense, North Star for saying real numbers, but $2 grand, right? Very, very little money. When you think about doc films, that's no money. The amount of work people like, well, actually, not many people, Hillary can do with this subject to make this even bigger, make this a real series. So I think when we think about North Star, we think about people like Hillary. I want you all to help support Hillary to continue to tell these stories. She can go a lot farther than that. Who's the mic?
First of all, Michael, I love you, and I'm so glad you're here because I didn't know you came. I've been looking for you all night. There was almost no forgiveness. But there is a question on that list that I gave to Lauren, and it's for you. And it's the closing question.
Okay, well, a closing question. Michael, you've made and worked on many documentary films, and we would love to know what was unique about this one, and if there were any vital lessons that you learned.
This will be really quick. I've never worked with an artist quite like Hillary. You can take it as many ways you want to take it. We were sitting like a Monday night, I think it was, because I was flying to Rhode Island like a couple of days or so later. It's like 1 a.m. in the morning cutting the last part, Lost. And I'm an outgoing person. I love people. I'm friends with so many, many people. But the editing room is my baby. And I have this artist sitting next to me, drinking wine and chewing food, telling me to cut, move this here, throw that. No, it needs to be colored. And I'm like, you're killing the film. And so, I say that in jest, but quite frankly, honestly, this was if you look at the ending credits, it says it's a film by Hillary. Because she directed it, she came up with this was a fever dream, this was everything. And so, again, this was the first time I've ever been so much of a conduit to make a film like this. So, again, I implore you all to continue to support artists, and I mean artists with a capital A like Hillary, because babe, this is your entire life and thought and your lifeblood on screen. And you can't even see, buddy. It's pretty freaking cool.
Unless anybody has any dire or dying last questions, are there any? I think we should take a break. I'm going to ask everyone to pick up their chair, fold it up,